My parents took me to a friend of the family opticians. It was a big mansion on top of a hill, in such a weird place, completely hidden through forest roads, and then even off-road for what seemed like an eternity. I had been to my regular opticians a couple months before, and he told me my eyes were fine. In fact, he had said I had exceptional vision. However, my parents had insisted there was something wrong with my eyes, and that it was very rare, and that I would need some specially prescribed glasses for my own safety. Safety, I thought. At first I thought this was some kind of joke, and they were taking me somewhere to throw me some sort of surprise party. But then they started to explain that this was especially because of my 16th birthday coming up the following year. They said I was extremely fortunate to get these glasses, and that I would also need some special physical training that would take a whole year. They said I had a special gift that run in my family. I thought that I may be able to see faraway words without blurriness, or they were preparing me to be some sort of athlete, as I was doing exceptionally well at sports in my school. However, as soon as my 16th birthday came, I knew exactly what they were preparing me for. Many things have become clearer since that day. I have lost all my school friends multiple times over. I don't even bother to make friends anymore, since we end up moving home every few months. Each time, we have to change our identities and lie about the reason for moving. Thanks to these damn glasses, I have also begun to see nightmarish creatures everywhere I go. I had never seen them there before. When growing up, this is what the year of training was for. I took my glasses off for the first time today. I can't believe how much my life has changed since that first conversation with my parents. I wish I could unsee some of the things I've seen in the last few years, just the way it is for everyone else. Jimmy was around 14 years old when the creature in the well first spoke to him. Jimmy was playing out at night past his curfew and had accidentally happened to kick his football over by the well. His parents had an old well at the far end of their farm. They had given Jimmy strict instructions never to go near it. This old well was the type that had a wooden beam across the top, with a rope, a pulley, and a bucket attached. Jimmy's parents had told him that the well had run dry long before he was born, and that an accident had happened there long ago. But they didn't give him details, just that it had been a tragedy, and that it was dangerous. He quickly ran over to the well to grab his ball and get back close to his home before his parents would find him anywhere near it. Just as he was running away from the well after retrieving his ball, Jimmy heard something call his name in a slow, creepy voice. Jimmy turned around, but saw nothing. He stood there, frozen and confused. Then he heard it again. Jimmy. This time it was louder and clearer. It sounded like one of the farmers Jimmy knew who smoked. Jimmy thought maybe he had fallen down there by accident. He looked down the well. The voice asked, "I need something tasty to eat." Jimmy couldn't see more than 12 feet or so down the well, even though this night happened to be a full moon. "Who's down there? What happened to you?" Jimmy asked. The thing replied, "Can you give me something tasty? I'll give you something nice in return." All Jimmy had on him were the cookies he had managed to stuff in his jacket pockets while his mom and dad weren't looking before he left the house. He put them in the bucket and then lowered it. The bucket went down to around 40 feet and was close to the end of the rope when he suddenly felt the weight of the bucket vanish all of a sudden. Around 10 seconds later, Jimmy felt the weight of the bucket again, indicating he should pull it up. Around the time the bucket was nearing the top of the well, Jimmy heard the voice say, "No good." Jimmy saw a shiny glimmer coming from the bucket. He picked it out and saw that it was a shiny piece of rectangular silver around the size of a matchbox, but thinner and completely smooth. "Need something fresh and new," the voice said. Jimmy tried calling out to the thing again, but there was no response. Jimmy decided to make up a story about how he had obtained the piece of shiny metal so his father wouldn't punish him and then not allow him to keep it. His father believed his story and then agreed to take the metal object into town with him. When his father returned, he seemed to be more upbeat. He told Jimmy that it was an ounce of pure silver. Long after this time, Jimmy decided to keep his meetings between him and the thing in the well a secret from his parents. It took him a while to also discover that the voice from the well was only there on the night of full moons. Jimmy also soon learned that he would only be rewarded if he put a different living thing down the well. The rule was one reward for each different item brought to the thing, and only once every full moon. In the years to come, Jimmy had brought each kind of animal he could catch to the well and received many rewards. By the time he was 18, he had half a shoebox full of silver pieces. He realized he had run out of different animals to bring the thing. This time, for the first time, the thing in the well spoke for a long time about what he wanted Jimmy to bring him. Shortly after this, a local young helper on a nearby farm went missing. Around this time, for the first time, Jimmy also started to receive gold pieces from the thing in the well. Many years later, Jimmy took over his parents' farm, and every once in a while, temporary workers would go missing every now and then without explanation. It seemed the thing in the well had finally found something to satisfy his tastes on a permanent basis. I had an upstairs bedroom. It gave me a great view, so I was the first to see my new neighbors moving into next door in the early hours of the morning. I saw a man and a woman carrying stuff inside their new house. I assumed they were a couple. I looked directly across to the bedroom window. It was opposite mine, and noticed it was open. I saw a pretty girl. She looked around the same age as me. She noticed me and smiled. She then motioned me with her hands to open my window. I opened my window, and she then leaned out of hers and shouted across, "Nice to meet you. What's your name?" "Sam." I said, "What's yours?" The girl replied, "Sarah," and she laughed. She had the most beautiful laugh ever. She said, "Keep your window open," and moved away from the window. I was a bit nervous at this point. She then came back with something in her hand and threw it over. It was a paper airplane. It made its way through my window with such accuracy, and then landed on my bed. I was impressed. I picked it off of my bed. On the wings of the airplane there was some writing. It said, "Open." I opened it up, and there was a message. "Hi there, Sam. I'll come by later tonight and introduce myself." As much as I found this girl to be cute, in the back of my mind something seemed off. I wrote back, "Come by later? What does that mean?" I went to throw it back, but she had disappeared. Her window was still open, so I threw it over anyway, knowing she would receive it sooner or later. I ended back in my room later that evening. There was still no reply from Sarah. I found out my mom had invited the new neighbors over for dinner. Now I understood what Sarah had meant when she had mentioned coming by and introducing herself. Later that evening, my mom shouted to me, "Come down now, Sam. Dinner is ready." I went downstairs into my dining room and sat at the table. I saw the two adults I had seen that morning, but that was it. No Sarah. After about an hour of getting to know our new neighbors, I got up to use the toilet. On the way back from the toilet, I asked, "Is Sarah coming?" As I neared the dining room, I heard a glass smash the floor and shatter. The man and woman just stared at me with their eyes wide open, visibly shaken. "How do you know who Sarah is?" I repeated myself. "Your daughter Sarah. I spoke with her this morning." The woman's face went into her hands, and tears started to flow down from her face. The man said their daughter Sarah had recently died, and they had moved home to get a fresh start. He then said he didn't know if this was some kind of prank, but I had made his wife extremely upset. They both then left my house. My mom scowled at me and asked, "Why would you play a game like that?" and then said, "Go to your room." I went to tell her something, but no words came out. I was still trying to process what had just happened. I turned on my bedroom light, and then hopped on my bed looking at the ceiling. As I was lost in thought, a paper airplane flew through the window and landed on my bed next to me. I picked it up and looked across from my window. I made out a silhouette standing in the darkness. My heart started pounding in my chest. She moved eerily closer to the light until the moonlight lit up her face. Her eyes were dark, and her skin was gray and blotched. She looked completely different from before. I looked at the paper airplane and read the message. It said, "Behind you." Just then, my lights flickered off and the floorboards behind me squeaked. Something dark whispered into my ear, "Hello, Sam."